This is the biggest plane ever designed. But what if it carried passengers? Called the CL-1201, it was dreamed up by Lockheed to relocate an entire army across an ocean and dominate anything that stood in America's way. But like many other wartime superplane projects, they eventually got turned into passenger aircraft. The 707 for one, and a roundabout way, so was the 747. So what would happen if the CL-1201 was built, but then it was time to turn it into a passenger aircraft? How many people could we actually fit on board the largest plane ever designed? Where would it land? And would it be a crime against humanity to fly it? Let's dive right down to what could possibly be the most outlandish Found and Explained video yet. And a special thanks to Aerospace Projects Review, who designed the mock-up blueprints for the CL-1201. Thanks again, Scott, and do go check out his site. The CL-1201 was originally designed by the engineers at Lockheed. It wasn't a serious concept, but was based on their earlier designs of a submarine hunting aircraft. It was a gigantic platform that was nuclear powered, had 4 giant turbines to fly across the ocean, and was able to carry multiple army units as well as around about 24 fighter jets. I've gone to great lengths twice on this channel to showcase this insane aircraft, and I suggest you go watch the real video on the CL-1201 linked down below. Whilst in this video, we'll go over the fun stuff. Let's crack this bad boy open, borrow some seats from Frontier and Ryanair, and stuff it to the rim with paying passengers. Now, the CL-1201, in my opinion, is one of the closest aircraft ever designed to be like a real-life Enterprise from Star Trek. Imagine being the captain yourself of the CL-1201 and traveling the world performing missions and saving nations. Well, thanks to today's video sponsor, you don't have to imagine it, because Star Trek Fleet Command is here. This fantastic game allows you to explore the entire galaxy of Star Trek, meeting iconic characters, recruit them to pilot legendary ships, and explore the great beyond. Those characters include pretty much every major player from the Next Generation, the original series, the J.J. Abrams films, Discovery, and more, including Kirk, Spock, Michael Burnham, and Data and Geordi. It's actually kind of ridiculous how many characters there are. This also includes the ships, with a huge range from the USS Enterprise, the Romulan Warbird, and the Klingon Bird of Prey, and you can control your own station at the edge of Federation space. But you're not alone out there. You can join millions of players, forge alliances, and defeat your enemies to conquer territories. You can choose your faction and explore new worlds on an intergalactic missions together. And the best part is that this is all free. Every month, new events and new content is added to the game, and as part of the 5th anniversary, the team behind Star Trek Fleet Command is giving a ridiculously good bonus to new players joining in on the action.
You want to use the code WARPSPEED to get 10 epic shades of Kirk. Captain James T. Kirk is a powerful and iconic officer that's a benefit to any ship that you put him on. He provides amazing defensive stats whilst also providing strong buffs.
So write down that code or pause this video, and just reminder that this code is only for new players. I'll see you among the stars in Star Trek Fleet Command. To begin, let's see what dimensions we're working with. The CL-1201 has a wingspan of 1,120 feet and has room on board for around 400 to 800 crew members over multiple decks. It's weighed in a massive 5,265 tons with a fuselage length of 560 feet, which is about 2.5 times the length of a Boeing 747. That means a ton of room on board, roughly 2 million cubic feet. Now, the original military specifications list that this could carry around 400 active ready troops and 1,150 tons of cargo, which is surprisingly smaller than we estimated for such a large plane, and also considering that we have that 400 to 800 crew members, it's a little bit strange. On the mock-up blueprints, the crew get the lion's share of the plane, with the troops on just 2 decks in the middle. hence these small numbers. By comparison, the full-length double-deck Airbus A380 aircraft has a typical seating arrangement for 525 passengers, but a maximum certified capacity for 853 passengers. So the CL1201 should be able to carry a lot more if we utilize the same space as the Airbus A380. The CL1201 fuselage is 58 feet in diameter and 560 feet long. We can remove some space on board for the nuclear reactor and crew compartments and the rear cargo area, giving us roughly 300 feet in length to play with. A typical Ryanair seat is 30 inches pitch and 17 inches wide, and it's the width that we'll start with. We have around about 700 inches on board the plane using the diameter size. We could fit around 40 seats. Now we need an aisle every 3 seats, and at 20 inches on average, that gives us 7 aisles and leaving us with 25 seats. We could put in some more if we opted for small aisles, so let's say 30 per row to keep it a round number. But just how many rows are we imagining? At 300 feet of depth, and each seat has only 30 inches of legroom, yikes, that's 3,600 inches to play with, or 120 rows of seats. Normally I'd factor in door space or toilets, but we already did that with the smaller usable area. 120 rows with 30 passengers per row is 3,600 passengers. Wow, that's the equivalent of 4 Airbus A380s. Not bad at all. But wait, there's more. That's just one level, because remember, this is a 5-deck aircraft. At 3,600 per level times 5, that gives us 18,000 passengers per plane, which is truly insane. And we haven't even considered if we removed the crew areas on board. Of course, using the CL1201 as a pure plane in case of today is very limited modern thinking. When we have so much room on board, imagine how much further we could take this concept. There is ample space on board this giant aircraft that we could easily turn much of the seating capacity into cabin rooms, with beds and restaurants and entertainment venues too. There's so much room on board that this 2 million cubic feet could be stretched and used for all sorts of insane ideas. I'm thinking a promenade where you can look out at the sky, a full casino, and perhaps even a water park. And because it's all powered by a massive nuclear reactor, you would have plenty of electricity. It would essentially become a flying cruise ship that would have all the amenities that millions would crave, and heck, it could fly for 41 days straight, so people might have ended up just living permanently on board. But this entire idea has some huge flaws, and now it's time to get into it. There are a few flaws with this plane being used as a commercial aircraft. First of all, where on earth would it land? As we know, many cities around the world actually struggle with airport capacity and even require multiple airports to service them, London and New York being popular examples. A plane this big would not fit at any airport at any major city without breaking a few 747s. Now, whilst it's possible it could land using its 182 VTOL jets on a runway, it would significantly damage the runway to the point that it could never be used again. So it's more of a one-shot takeoff aircraft that requires a new airport every time it's used. Not ideal. But I may have found a way around this flaw. Longtime fans of the channel will remember the flying train concept. An aircraft that flies between cities with smaller shuttle aircraft linking up to it to let people come and go. An original idea that would massively increase the capacity of the air network over the United States. The link, of course, is down below. Now, imagine if we took this idea and applied it to our monster CL1201. Imagine if we had a smaller shuttlecraft like the 707, as it was designed to be used with, that flew up from airports and met the aircraft and let passengers get on and off the plane. The CL1201 would never have to land and would keep flying around the world, a flying city in a sense. Obviously, the CL-1201 also had small fighter jets on its wings, but this wouldn't be needed for the civil model. Instead, there might be private planes for passengers or pods that could be used for private cabins. But that's not the only thorn that would be a major issue with this plane. The other factor is the power source of the aircraft, that blimey big nuclear reactor with a capital N. Yes, that's right, because the CL-1201 has a giant steel shell nuclear reactor that can survive a hit with a mountain, a lot of countries are going to be very reluctant and very nervous to see it flying overhead. And if it's not allowed to fly over most of the Earth's landmasses, how on earth would it fly anywhere? It would only be able to fly over the poles or the oceans, preventing it from being really that practical of an aircraft. And don't forget that a nuclear flight would only happen at around 16,000 feet, meaning that the CL-1201 would in fact need to rely on chemical propellants, or fuel for altitudes below that height, which funnily enough is where the majority, if not all, the human population lives. I also want to humour you with some insane ideas of how long this thing would take to board all 18,000 passengers, how long it would take to clean, and what the meal service aboard would be like, and God forbid, the toilet situation. At the end of the day, this aircraft is totally insane, and it was just a paper project. There is no way to know of people if the 1960s and 70s could have built this, and it would have costed a fortune just to make the plane that couldn't land anywhere. But what a dream it could have been, and imagine if one day you and I got to fly on it. If you enjoyed this video, then I suggest you subscribe and hang out. We have semi-weekly videos of crazy aircraft, weird wings, and marvelous machines that the world almost built. And I'll see you in the next video.